I don't care if the movie got delayed a year. You still have to review the fourth film and continue this review series. When are you going to do the Saw 4 review? Everybody's waiting on the Saw 4 review. Get the Saw 4 review done. Do the Saw 4 review. Saw 4 review. Saw 4 review. Saw 4 review.
All right! So Saw 4 tells the story of a cop stuck in one of Jigsaw's games, revealing that despite Jigsaw being dead, somebody else has carried on the legacy. All right, you aggravating sons of bitches, it's here, the Saw 4 review. My God, I have never had a review series be commented so much about where's the next one, where's the next one, where's the next one. No matter what I do, I cannot escape the Saw review series. Which maybe that's my fault for starting this review series, but I'm gonna blame whoever decided to release a pandemic and delay the movie that I was hyping up for over a year. So, I'm going to carry on with this review series alongside the Romero of the Dead series. I've just filmed my Day of the Dead review. I'm not sure which one of those is going to be out. Maybe that's obvious. You already seen it. If not, surprise! You got Day of the Dead coming at you too. Saw 4. Well, small spoiler alert for the rest of this review series. I think most of my positives for the Saw series is in the past. So you got Saw 4. This is continued off of the end of Saw 3, just like all these films where they're all stitched together pretty closely. Now we are into the Hoffman era of Saw films, which is my least favorite era of Saw films. But I'll save that ass whooping for later on in the review. Let's talk about some of the positives for Saw 4. And the main one, something that I do not talk about very often, is actually the editing. Now, I think that the editing in Saw 4 might be the best of the entire series. That might be a bold statement, I don't know, but it's definitely near the top because while we do have some of that signature Saw editing where there's a lot of shaking around and a lot of quick cuts and a lot of, disorienting way that some scenes, like the traps, are kind of displayed to us, there's some really cool editing tricks where, like, the guy will go into part of the room and the scene will transition into a completely other scene, and the police station, it just does it seamlessly. There's a lot of little editing tricks like that were not in the previous 3 movies and are really not in the further movies either. Saw 4, whoever decided to edit this decided to either give this its own flavor, or the guy just hasn't worked on any other Saw movies, and he should, because it's pretty damn good with editing. As somebody who always champions practical effects and practical gore, gotta give the credit where credit is due that there's actually some pretty good practical gore in this one. Namely, the opening scene with this autopsy. One of the most realistic looking autopsies that I have ever seen in a movie. It does not look like there is a fake rubber silicone body up there that's being cut apart. It literally looks like they killed Tobin Bell, threw him on a table, and decided to cut him open before the cops came. And speaking of Tobin Bell, speaking of Jigsaw, this movie does decide to dive into Jigsaw's origins a bit. It kind of gets into his psyche a bit more with why and how he started all of these traps, what drove him that way with his wife, who we just get introduced to in this movie, and the baby that they lost, and some of his precursor traps with like these knives across the face on the guy that actually caused the death of his infant, and all of those things. I actually kind of like that. A little bit of a prequel flavor to this one to a certain degree. I'm not really a prequel guy. I think a lot of times they ruin the mystique of the character, but this is not really too mysterious of a character to where you can add those extra details, fill in some of those gaps, and it actually adds a little bit to this movie where I enjoyed those parts of the story more than whatever the fuck was going on with the main guy. Speaking of him, let's slide into our negatives, shall we? Did not really like the main character of this one. Just a random cop that we have seen that you probably forget about with the year wait between Saw 3 and Saw 4. By the time this movie starts, you're like, who the fuck is that? And then you rewatch the movies, you're like, oh, okay, he was in the other movies. He's that memorable of a character. And I really think that though I've bitched already about the ambiguity of, the confusion over Jigsaw's rules and how he decides that, some things are justified and some things aren't, and I'm not a killer, I've never killed anybody, I just set up the traps and they kill themselves. All that bullshit, it gets even worse when we arrive at Saw 4. Namely, the whole motivation of why the fuck this guy's in the traps in the first place, because he's a cop that likes to kick open doors without permission. Wow! That justifies killing a bunch of fucking people and putting this guy through a death trap for 90 minutes, because I kick open doors. What's next? I jaywalked? Fuck. Going along with that, the traps, down from Saw 3. You know, the first 3 movies I think have the best traps. There's a couple of standout ones later on in this series that we'll get to. Saw 4 really doesn't have any of them. There's some that are just not like bad. They're not embarrassing. It's not like it's ridiculous. It's still the Saw gore, torture porn shit that you go for if you like these movies, but no trap in this movie, no scenario, no lesson being taught really stands out to me. It's just kind of a monotone journey through more Saw shit. I also really didn't like the aspect of this movie that focuses on the interrogation of Jigsaw's wife, whatever the fuck her name was. I think that's one of the least interesting aspects of this story. I don't really like her as a character. I automatically am suspicious of her because she's the wife of Jigsaw and she doesn't really seem that innocent. There's another character we'll get into with that. The detective, you know, what is it, Luke from Gilmore Girls? Don't really like him either. He's supposed to be the guy we're rooting for. He's the good detective in this, and he's just a dick. We're like, okay, you're bad cop, and he's bad cop, and this guy's cop I don't fucking remember.
2 officers are missing. I am just curious as to why.
Hoffman, not a fan of this guy. Not a fan of the actor, not a fan of the character, not a fan of the utilization of the character in the story, not a fan of anything really with this guy. I'm probably gonna bitch about that more in the next couple of movies, so strap in. But Hoffman, this is a guy where when you watch this movie, it's fucking obvious that he's the one who's the killer at the end. This movie actually has the balls to try to act like it has some surprises for you. Like, Saw is known for its twist reveals, its shocking, surprising ending, that's little pulling the rug out from under you in the last 5 minutes, see you next Halloween, bitches. They don't pull that off well at all in Saw 4, because the way that this actor is, I don't know if it's the way he was directed, or just the way that this dude is, he's so fucking weird and ominous and just odd in every scene to where it's just like, what is up with this guy? And as soon as they put the little thought out there like, oh, Jigsaw's dead. He must have had somebody helping him. I'm like, oh, it's that motherfucker right there. The one looking at you, glaring at you right now. Look at him. Look how pissed he looks. That's the bad guy. Arrest him. And finally, the ending. The other, surprise reveal. Yeah, when you get to the end and it's like, oh, the whole test was that you kicked open doors without permission, and now you're gonna kick open this door and cause the traps to go off, and you failed your test, sonny. No, sorry, doesn't work for me. He kicked open a fucking door. Write his ass up. Don't murder everybody. So all in all, guys, not a fan of Saw 4. I mean, I've given you enough hints that I'm not a very big fan of this series. That's part of the reason why I've delayed getting back onto it, because there's not a whole lot positive coming from here on out. But Saw 4, some decent things about it with the technical aspects of the editing. I like some of the backstory. There's some pretty decent gore here. Everything else, I can leave it completely. I could never watch this movie again for the rest of my life, and I'll be totally fine.
You gotta save yourself.
So if you're a fan of the Saw movies and you want to see where this storyline goes and all the twists and turns that are in store for you after the death of Jigsaw, just imagine it, because it's a lot better what this movie's gonna give you. So unfortunately, gonna have to tell you to skip it. So what do you guys think of Saw 4? Are you a fan of this one? Is this high up in your Saw ranking? Is this at the bottom of your Saw ranking? Do you have Saw movies past Saw 4 that you're really looking forward to seeing me review, either because you want to see me tear the new ass or because there's one waiting in the wings that you think is going to surprise me and be like, ah, this one's good? Let me know down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. You've asked for it long enough. Here it is, signed, sealed, and delivered. Saw 4. So please like and share and subscribe if you haven't already. I have reviews for the first 3 movies. I have much better things to say about those, especially the second one. So please check those out. Strap in for the rest of these Saw reviews. They will be coming to you somewhat soon. Just don't nag me about it. And also keep an eye out for the rest of the Romero of the Dead reviews, because those are going to be wrapping up here as well alongside this Saw review series. So check all that out, guys. Thank you for watching. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.